3 years ago, I sat in a quiet corner of a wedding reception, nursing a glass of whiskey. My clothes were simple. My car outside was old. To everyone there, I was just Jacob, the guy who lost his wife, his reputation, and any shot at success. But something none of them knew. That night, I heard laughter from a nearby table, familiar voices mocking someone. It took me a moment to realize they were laughing at me. That laughter would be the biggest mistake they ever made. Before I take you through this journey, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If stories about standing back up after life knocks you down speak to you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me take you back to how I got here and why that laughter changed everything. 5 years ago, my life looked completely different. I was a software engineer working for a major tech company in Austin, Texas. The salary was good, the benefits were solid, and I had a routine that felt safe. Every morning I drove to the same office, sat at the same desk, and solved problems that someone else assigned to me. It was comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. I had been married to Amanda for 3 years at that point. We met at a networking event downtown. She worked in marketing, had this infectious laugh, and knew exactly what she wanted out of life. I remember the first time she looked at me across that crowded room. Something in her eyes made me feel like I could be more than just another cog in the corporate machine. Our wedding was small but meaningful. We held it in her parents' backyard in the hill country. 30 guests, homemade food, and string lights hanging from the oak trees. That night, as we danced under those lights, she whispered in my ear that she believed in me, that she knew I was destined for something greater. I held onto those words like they were scripture. The idea for my startup came to me during a particularly frustrating week at work. Small businesses were struggling with project management. The existing software was either too expensive or too complicated. I saw a gap in the market, and more importantly, I saw my chance to build something that mattered. When I told Amanda about quitting my job to pursue this dream, she was supportive. At first, she set one condition, though. 1 year. Give it 1 year, and if it does not work out, go back to the corporate world. I agreed because I believed 1 year would be enough. I was wrong about a lot of things back then. The first year was brutal. I worked out of our spare bedroom coding 16 hours a day, surviving on coffee and determination. The savings account that once felt abundant started shrinking. We moved from our nice apartment in downtown Austin to a smaller place on the east side. Amanda said she understood. She said sacrifices were necessary for dreams. But understanding has its limits. By the second year, the tension in our home became suffocating. Amanda started coming home later from work, always with some excuse about meetings or deadlines. She began paying more attention to her appearance, buying new clothes, spending more time getting ready in the mornings. I noticed but convinced myself it meant nothing. Then Tyler entered the picture. She mentioned him casually at first. Just a new team lead at her company. Tyler said this, Tyler did that. Tyler got promoted again. His name started appearing in our conversations like an uninvited guest who refused to leave. I learned he was the type of guy who drove a BMW, wore designer watches, and never missed an opportunity to talk about his latest commission check. Everything I was not. The late-night text messages started around month 14 of my startup journey. Amanda would be sitting next to me on the couch and her phone would light up. She would angle the screen away, type something quickly, then put it face down. When I asked who it was, she always said it was just work stuff. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. One evening in October, I came home after spending 12 hours debugging a critical feature. The apartment felt different, empty in a way that had nothing to do with furniture. Amanda was in the bedroom, suitcases open on the bed, her clothes folded in neat piles. My heart stopped. She did not even look up when she spoke. I cannot do this anymore, Jacob. You are going nowhere. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood in the doorway, unable to move, watching my wife pack away 3 years of marriage like it was nothing more than a business transaction. Tyler can give me the life I deserve, she continued. Her voice was steady, rehearsed almost. You are 30 years old and you do not even have a real job. Do you know how embarrassing it is to tell people my husband is an unemployed dreamer? I asked her one question. Did you ever believe in me? She finally looked at me then. Her eyes held no warmth, no remnant of the woman who danced with me under string lights. I believed in who I thought you could be, not who you are. The divorce was finalized within a few months. Quick, clinical, efficient. Amanda did not ask for much, probably because she thought there was nothing worth taking. 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Amanda and Tyler. The ceremony was at some expensive venue downtown. I threw the invitation away, but the message was clear. She had upgraded. I had been left behind. The whispers among our mutual friends spread fast. Poor Jacob still chasing that startup fantasy. Amanda really dodged a bullet. Tyler is so successful, so put together. Every word was a small knife, and I collected them all. But here is what nobody knew. What nobody bothered to find out. While they were planning their wedding and laughing about my failures, something was happening behind the scenes. My software, the one I had poured 3 years of my life into, caught the attention of a major corporation. They saw potential where everyone else saw a pipe dream. The negotiations started quietly. No announcements, no celebrations, no social media posts. The final number was $18 million. I sat alone in my small apartment the night the deal closed, staring at my bank account balance. More zeros than I had ever seen. More money than I knew what to do with. My first instinct was to shout it from the rooftops to prove everyone wrong, to watch Amanda choke on her words about me going nowhere. But I did not do that. Instead, I made a decision that would change everything. I kept living exactly as I had been. Same apartment, same 2016 Honda Civic, same simple clothes. No luxury watches, no expensive vacations, no flashy displays of wealth. I wanted to know who would stand by Jacob the person, not Jacob the bank account. I formed an investment company called Blackstone Capital Partners. Through it, I started acquiring stakes in various small and medium-sized businesses. Nothing too flashy, nothing that would draw attention. Just quiet ownership in companies that showed promise or needed restructuring. One of those companies was Apex Marketing Solutions. It was struggling financially when I found it. Mismanagement, bloated expenses, declining client retention. I purchased it outright for $5 million, keeping my identity hidden behind layers of corporate structure. The existing CEO, a man named Richard, continued running day-to-day operations. To everyone at Apex, I was just a silent investor, a name on paperwork that nobody ever saw. I did not know it at the time, but Tyler worked there. So did his 3 closest friends. Derek, the creative director who thought he was God's gift to advertising. Brandon, the head of sales, who could not close a deal without padding his expense reports. And Jason, an account manager with a trail of harassment complaints that mysteriously disappeared from human resources files. They had no idea who owned the company that signed their paychecks. 14 months after buying Apex, I received a wedding invitation from Marcus. He was one of my few remaining friends from college, someone who never judged me during the hard years. His wedding was being held at a resort outside Austin, and I was genuinely happy for him. What I did not realize was that Marcus had also stayed friends with Amanda through the years. She and Tyler were on the guest list too. I arrived at the wedding wearing khaki pants and a simple navy blue shirt. No fancy watch, no designer labels. Just me hoping to congratulate an old friend and maybe leave early before things got awkward. The reception was in full swing when I found a seat at the bar. The bartender poured me a whiskey and I sat there watching the crowd. Happy couples dancing, old friends reconnecting, life moving forward for everyone except apparently me. That is when I heard the laughter. It came from a group near the edge of the dance floor. Tyler stood at the center, champagne glass in hand, surrounded by Derek, Brandon, and Jason. They were loud in that way certain men get when they have had too much to drink and too little humility. Amanda stood beside Tyler, her arm linked through his, a polite smile frozen on her face. Tyler spotted me first. I watched his expression shift from confusion to recognition to amusement. He said something to his group and suddenly 4 sets of eyes were looking my way. The laughter grew louder. He walked over with that swagger of his. Amanda followed a few steps behind her heels, clicking on the wooden floor. Well, well, well. Tyler stopped in front of me close enough that I could smell the champagne on his breath. If it is not the famous entrepreneur. How is the unemployment life treating you, buddy? I took a sip of my whiskey. I am doing fine, Tyler. Congratulations on the marriage. He laughed and turned to his friends who had gathered behind him. You hear that he is doing fine, living in that same crappy apartment, driving that same old car? The boys erupted in laughter. Derek chimed in next. I heard he is still chasing that startup dream. What has it been 5 years now? Brandon shook his head with mock sympathy. Some people just do not know when to quit. Jason, always the follower, added his piece. At least Amanda got out in time, right? I looked at Amanda. She stood there silent, not defending me, not asking them to stop. When Tyler said the best decision she ever made was leaving me, she smiled. Actually smiled. Tyler was not finished. You know what I did last month? Closed a deal worth $500,000. What did you do? Let me guess, applied for food stamps. They laughed again. Loud, cruel, meant to humiliate. I set down my glass and looked Tyler directly in the eyes. Apex Marketing Solutions, right? The Henderson account, if I remember correctly. The laughter stopped. Tyler's smile flickered. How do you know about that? I smiled just slightly. I know a lot of things, Tyler. Enjoy your night. I left money on the bar and walked out. Behind me, I could hear Tyler's voice, probably trying to brush off the moment with another joke. What a loser. Can you believe Amanda was married to that guy? The drive home was quiet. I did not turn on the radio. I just let the silence fill the car as I processed what had happened. By the time I walked into my apartment, something had shifted inside me. It was not anger exactly, it was clarity. I opened my laptop and logged into the management system for Blackstone Capital Partners. A few clicks brought me to the employee files of Apex Marketing Solutions, Tyler Morrison, Derek Hayes, Brandon Clark, Jason Webb. All of them worked for me. Curiosity led me deeper. I started pulling performance reports, client feedback, expense records. What I found was worse than I expected. Tyler had been inflating his sales numbers for months, the Henderson account he bragged about at the wedding. His actual numbers were 40% lower than what he reported. On top of that, there were 12 formal complaints from clients about his arrogant attitude. Derek had been stealing creative concepts from competitors. I found email chains where he literally copied campaign ideas and presented them as original work. Brandon's expense reports were fiction. 23 falsified entries in the past year alone, fancy dinners that never happened, client gifts that were never purchased. And Jason. 2 separate women had filed harassment complaints against him. Both complaints had vanished from the official system, buried by someone with access to human resources files. These men had stood there laughing at me for being unemployed, while committing offenses that would get them fired from any reputable company. The next morning was Monday. I put on a gray suit, simple but professional, and drove to the Apex Marketing Solutions office. It was 8 in the morning when I walked through the front doors. The receptionist looked up confused. She had never seen me before. I am here to see Richard, I said. Richard appeared moments later, his face a mixture of surprise and concern. Mr. Hartwell, we were not expecting you. Is there something wrong? I nodded. Call an emergency meeting. All senior staff, conference room, 9 o'clock. The room filled quickly. Around the long table sat department heads, managers, and of course, Tyler and his crew. They were laughing about something when I walked in. Tyler was mid-sentence when he looked up and saw me. The color drained from his face. You. His voice cracked. What the hell are you doing here? I walked to the head of the table and waited for the room to fall silent. For those who do not know me, my name is Jacob Hartwell. I am the sole owner of Blackstone Capital Partners, which acquired Apex Marketing Solutions 14 months ago. I own this company. The silence that followed was absolute. Tyler looked like he might be sick. Derek, Brandon, and Jason exchanged panicked glances. I connected my laptop to the projector and began. Mr. Morrison, I pulled up his file. You have consistently misrepresented your sales figures. The Henderson account you bragged about at the wedding, I have the real numbers right here. You inflated them by 40%. Additionally, there are 12 customer complaints about your conduct in the past 6 months. Tyler stood up his chair, scraping against the floor. There must be some mistake. There is no mistake. I moved to the next file. Mr. Hayes, this email chain shows you copied a campaign concept directly from a competitor. Word for word. That is not creativity. That is theft. Derek's face went white. Mr. Clark, 23 falsified expense reports in the past year. Would you like me to read the amounts out loud? Brandon said nothing. Mr. Webb, 2 sexual harassment complaints that mysteriously disappeared from the human resources system. I found them in the backup server. Jason started to speak, but I held up my hand. Effective immediately, all 4 of you are terminated. Security will escort you out. You will receive no severance. And depending on our legal review, some of you may be hearing from our attorneys. Tyler slammed his hand on the table. You cannot do this. This is personal. This is revenge. I looked at him calmly. No, Tyler, this is business. Tyler, if you had done your job properly, you would still have one. The fact that you humiliated me at that wedding just made me look closer at the numbers. You did this to yourself. He made one last attempt. Amanda will hear about this. Tell her whatever you want. I am sure she will find it very interesting that her husband has been lying about his success for years. Security arrived. The 4 of them were escorted out of the building while the rest of the staff watched in stunned silence. I stood at the window and watched them walk across the parking lot. Tyler looked back, once his face a mask of disbelief. I felt nothing. A week later, Amanda called. She wanted to meet. I agreed more out of curiosity than anything else. We sat across from each other at a quiet coffee shop. She looked different, tired. The confident woman who had packed her bags and walked out on me was gone. In her place sat someone smaller, worried. I did not know Jacob. She could not meet my eyes. I did not know you were... would it have mattered if you knew she had no answer? I spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully. You left me because you thought I was going nowhere. That was your choice, and I accepted it. But you also stood there while your husband and his friends humiliated me. That was a choice, too. Tears started forming in her eyes. She told me Tyler had changed since losing his job, that they were having financial problems, that maybe I could help for old time's sake. That is not my responsibility anymore. I stood up. You chose your path. Now walk it. I paid for the coffee and left her sitting there. The months that followed brought changes I had not anticipated. I started spending more time with the companies I owned, not just as an investor, but as a mentor. I created a scholarship fund for technology students from low-income families. I bought a small house outside Austin with a yard big enough for a dog. I named him Cooper. He does not care how much money I have. He just wants to play fetch and sleep at my feet. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who stuck around when I had nothing. Marcus and I grab dinner once a month now. No judgment, no expectations, just 2 guys who have known each other since freshman orientation. 6 months ago, I met someone. Her name is Sophie. She teaches 3rd grade at a public school. When I asked her out, she had no idea about Blackstone Capital Partners or the acquisition or any of it. She just knew I made her laugh and that I listened when she talked about her students. We are taking things slow. And for the first time in years, slow feels right. Looking back, I realized the people who mocked my struggle were never going to celebrate my success. That is just not how it works. They needed me to fail because my failure made them feel better about their own ordinary lives. When I stopped failing, I became a threat. I did not fire Tyler and his friends for revenge. I fired them because they were bad employees who happened to be terrible people. The humiliation at that wedding did not make me want to hurt them. It just opened my eyes to who they really were. Sometimes the universe gives you exactly the information you need at exactly the right moment. Real justice is not about making others suffer. It is about not letting their cruelty shape who you become. I could have used my money to destroy them completely. I could have dragged their names through the mud, made sure they never worked in this city again. But what would that have made me? I think about Amanda sometimes. Not with anger, not with longing, just a quiet recognition that she taught me something valuable. Love based on potential is not love at all. It is an investment, and investments get liquidated when they stop performing. These days, I sit on my porch in the evenings with Cooper at my feet, watching the sun go down over the Texas hills. Sophie calls most nights. We talk about nothing important and everything that matters. The whiskey in my glass costs the same as it did 3 years ago. I never developed a taste for the expensive stuff. They laughed at me for being jobless, but here is what I learned about rock bottom. It is solid ground. You can build anything from there if you are willing to put in the work and patient enough to wait for the right moment. If you are going through something similar right now, remember this. The people who mock your struggle will never celebrate your success, and that is okay. You do not need their applause. You just need your own 2 feet and the courage to keep walking. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is simply becoming someone they could never be. Someone at peace. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone laugh at your lowest moment only to watch you rise beyond anything they imagined? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story touched something in you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need a reminder that their current situation is not their final destination. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss more stories about resilience, justice, and the quiet strength it takes to rebuild a life. Thank you for spending this time with me. Whatever you are facing right now, I hope you find your solid ground. I hope you build something beautiful from it. And I hope that one day when you look back at the people who doubted you, you feel nothing but peace. Until next time, take care of yourself. You are worth more than they will ever know.